Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 104 of the Falcoholic Live. I'm, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, joined by my co-host this evening, Eric Robinson, @_Eric_Robinson on Twitter. And Eric, how are you doing on this fine evening?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Doing pretty good. We finally got the draft behind us, but I miss it already.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like, what else do we have to look forward to now? Because we don't exactly know if we're going to have OTAs. Probably not.
Right.
We don't know if we're going to have training camp. That seems maybe like a 50-50 proposition at this point. And even like the season itself is like somewhat of a dubious proposition, at least starting on time. So it's all very much up in the air. But yeah, we're just doing our best. Doing our best,
we're
folks.
we're trying,
Yeah.
man. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. I mean, things are progressing a little bit. And it's, I mean, I don't want to say it's, it's looking like it's heading towards the season is going to play itself out, but we'll see when it gets here. We'll see. But we got some Falcons stuff to talk about tonight, man.
Yeah, there's actual news. We have draft picks to talk about. This is our first chance to talk about the day 3 picks because if you guys weren't here, shame on you. But no, if you joined us for day 1 and 2 of the draft, that was a lot of fun. But we didn't do a show for day 3 because even we have standards of some kind. And we will talk about those day 3 picks tonight. We'll talk, of course, about Takk McKinley not getting his 5th-year option. That seems to be the topic of the day, so we'll be sure to cover that. Talk about the UDFAs because, only we would spend time looking up UDFAs at this point in the offseason. I know I spent several hours today doing that. So, we have issues, but we have issues to give you the content that you need. So we're going to be getting to all that stuff. Let's kick it off with some of this Takk McKinley talk. Obviously, there's some Twitter stuff happening. I can't see it because, as you know, I'm blocked by Takk by association with James Rael, our writer, who called him out for his Twitter antics. So, anyone that had Falcoholic in their name got the block. So I'll except you. Well, you didn't have Falcoholic in your name. You're the smart one.
No,
so,
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Smart man. But yeah, I mean, basically, Dan Quinn let it slip back in like February that they weren't going to pick up his option, but it became official today when they announced that they weren't going to do it. So, kind of, what are your thoughts on that? I guess we heard that maybe the dollar amount for that option would have been about $10 million. So, what are your thoughts on the Falcons not doing that yet?
I'm fine with it, honestly. After what happened last year with them picking up the 5th-year option for Vic Beasley and how that played out. And, we looked at that last year when they picked it up and we were like, what the hell are they doing? What has he done to, be rewarded with that? And they let it play out. It didn't play out in their favor. And they pretty much got burned by it, in my opinion. And I think this is an indication of just them being wary of that. I don't think it's really much of a situation where they're saying, you have to earn it, Takk, or we don't think you're worthy of it. I think it's a combination of his injury history along with just them really being super cautious about something like this. It's not the end of the world, but of course you have those fans that look at this and surprisingly you even have some writers who are foolishly looking at this and saying, oh my God, they're not picking up the option, so he's going to leave next year. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to leave. Whitney Merciless had his 5th-year option not picked up by the Texans, and he's only been playing with one team his entire career. He re-signed with the Texans after his 4th year. But Dupree didn't get his 5th-year option picked up. He had his best year. He had his best year of his career last year, and he's still with Pittsburgh. So I mean, it's just because a player doesn't get their 5th-year option picked up doesn't mean it's a done deal that they're no longer going to be on the team. If he balls out this year, I guarantee you the team will renegotiate next offseason and try to bring him back. So the best thing for him at this point. Because in my opinion, the team still has the leverage because the best thing for him at this point is to ball out and have a season because you don't want to use this and not play to your potential. And then you go into the next offseason looking for a contract and you cost yourself millions of dollars,
right?
Because you got, pissy and didn't want to play and stuff like that. So if anything, this should be a motivational tool for him.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he uses it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, the team obviously got burned big time from Vic Beasley's fifth-year option, and like that's not exact. Oh, hi Evan. I just noticed you're here. How long have you been here?
Yeah. Oh, he was here for about a minute.
2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I like just noticed. Welcome, Evan Birchfield.
I want to say I was busy doing something, but I was actually taking a nap.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. No, I mean, there's no rules in the quarantine. Okay, like you can just have a nap whenever you want.
I was studying up on film, is what I mean.
Yeah, I was grinding that tape so hard, Yeah.
Yeah.
It just passed right out of my chair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but yeah, we were talking about Takk's fifth-year option, and I was gonna say that. I agree with what Eric said. Basically, that they obviously got burned by Vic's option, and any one of us could have told you that was a bad idea to pick that up because it was like the opposite thing that you should have been doing with Vic. Like we've seen Vic for 4 years. We knew, 3 years when they picked up the option. We knew that he was having issues with motivation and hadn't really improved. So I don't know why they thought giving him a huge guaranteed paycheck was going to make him all of a sudden get to work. And they were proved wrong almost immediately when he refused to show up to OTAs, refused to do anything with Dan Quinn in the offseason and all that, which really just is comical, how stupid that decision was. And with Beasley's option, they could have rescinded it. They could have cut him, before the year started, and even tried to re-sign him or something like that. But they just decided not to.
I think he cost himself last year too, because he ended up getting only a 1-year deal. He didn't even get a long-term deal out of it. So he got his $13 million, like you said. He got his $13 million. He felt satisfied with that, and that started a bad look across the league. Now the league is looking at him and saying, "Hey, you got your money now, and you're not practicing with the team. You're not working out in the off season." So, and that parlayed to what? A 1-year deal with Tennessee when he could have got a 3-year deal. He could have got a long-term deal.
Yeah,
he cost himself millions. So hopefully Takk doesn't take that same route.
Yeah, I don't think he will, and I think this is honestly the best thing for him probably because if it works out, he gets a big contract next year potentially, like a Dante Fowler type situation where he has a great season, which would be good for the Falcons this year, obviously, because if Takk has a great season, that probably means Fowler's having a great season too.
And they're winning some games.
It probably means they're winning games, yes. So that's good for the Falcons, and then it's good for the comp pick because if he gets a Fowler contract, that's a third-round comp pick. So best case scenario, he plays great. The Falcons are playoff contenders, all that stuff. The worst case then would be that he walks and gets a big contract, and then the Falcons get a big comp pick in 2022, which is fine. I mean, that's nice. It's not like super great value, but it's not terrible. I mean, that's the best case scenario, basically. Worst case is he struggles this year. He's not healthy. He doesn't produce, whatever. And then the Falcons either sign him to like a minimal deal or just a couple million to see if he pans out. And if not, they just let him walk, and it's really like, well, who cares? So the Falcons just have a lot more flexibility with what they do next year instead of being locked into this 10+ million cap hit. And if he's, happens to end the season with an injury, then he can't be cut and it's guaranteed and all this. So it's just giving them more flexibility really with Takk. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going or not going. But Evan, you got any thoughts on the whole Takk situation here?
No, I mean, from what I heard, it sounded like you guys summed it up. The one thing I wanted to add, and we've mentioned it on previous podcasts, that I believe it was the Athletic or something. There was like a report a long time ago that it had the reason they brought Vic back, or maybe it was speculation, was because of something to do with the agent and re-signing.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I mean, we can't say that that's 100% true, but it sounds, It sounded, if you read the article, pretty convincing.
I've heard that from more than one.
Yeah. So which is a bad look either way, to be honest. But yeah, and then I saw people in the chat referencing it. I'm not sure if you guys mentioned it, but I guess Vic subtweeted it or whatever with sleeping.
Z's or
because I know
whatever.
I know a couple.
Yeah,
I know a couple of people at the Falcoholic are blocked by Takk. So
I don't care.
Yes.
I don't care what be. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I get some people's frustration, but again, I think some people are really looking at it the wrong way. and they're really looking at it as if like the team is basically saying we don't want you next year. That does not mean that the team doesn't or will not re-sign him next year. There's always that possibility. You have to play the season out first, and I think both sides need to realize that. And
I think it's worth mentioning the he hasn't like literally said the words, at least not to my knowledge, but Takk has dropped hints about going elsewhere too, like to Dallas and stuff like that. So it's not as if the team, like Eric's saying, the team is like saying, hey, we don't want you back. But also if he wants to be in Atlanta, maybe not talk about going elsewhere while you're still with that team. Because obviously they've got to see stuff like that too. So
they see it. And I'm a believer, Evan, in money changes everything. So this is, I watched enough football over the years to realize that a player or a coach will say one thing and they would completely change their thought the next day.
Well, I mean, we saw how like, how the Matt Bryant situation was handled, and even how this Takk thing was handled, how quickly they went from Dan Quinn saying it was going to be declined to Dimitroff kind of backtracking it a little, when clearly that was probably the case the whole time. They just didn't want to getting out for whatever reason. And in the timing, I mean, Takk said it, and then the team said it, maybe an hour later?
Yeah.
I find that's a coincidence, if anything. So
no, not a coincidence at all.
It's fine. Like I said, I think the team doesn't want to get burned by it, because in actuality, do I think Takk is a good player? Yes. I think a lot of people gives him some grief because of simply sack numbers, which he doesn't have great sack numbers. But if you look at his pressures, which is a stat, and it is a formidable stat, his pressure numbers are there. And that's why certain statisticians keep pressures and hurries and quarterback hits and stuff like that, because it is an actual stat. But when it comes to him, man, it's just I didn't want to see the team give him that $10 million, and he has bad shoulders. He's had bad shoulders coming out of college.
Yeah.
And no one can truly sit here and tell me that he's worthy of giving $10 million this year, because he hasn't been really healthy his entire career.
Right.
And that's what I'm wary of, giving him the $10 million and he misses 4 games because of shoulder injury, or he misses half the season because of those shoulders and stuff like that. Like, it's just, I don't want to go through that again.
Right.
And if there was a year to earn it, I think it's this year, just because I think we can all agree this is probably, it may be early, but probably the best defensive line we've had in a while, just based on who, like on paper, who was all there.
Yeah. Since 2016 at least.
Yeah.
I think it's a time for him to earn it because of Fowler across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. He'll have a collective group, which should help him. I mean, you just saw how, it's a bad example because Aaron Donald's amazing, but just the influence he has on players who play on the Rams. All of a sudden, they may not be the greatest, but they play next to him like Fowler, and they're all of a sudden, earning their money in it, Fowler situation coming to Atlanta. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the thing. It's like, if he can, it's in his best interest to play well, even if he doesn't want to play in Atlanta long term. It's in his best interest to just ball out this year and then go wherever. Like, if he plays extremely well, like a Fowler season last year, he can go wherever he wants. Like, there's going to be teams lining up.
Teams watch that stuff. They pay attention to a player not coming to practice or not working out. They keep tabs on that stuff. Yeah. And that it travels for a year. Like, they will remember that. They will remember that Vic Beasley didn't go to OTAs last year and he went to a basketball tournament.
Yeah.
What was his contract? You said, Eric, you said it was 1 year. How much was it?
Got like a 1 year deal.
I think it's like 8 or 9 million.
Like 8 or 9 million.
Oh, okay.
But he easily could have parlayed that into a Fowler type deal. If he would have came in practice and actually had a stellar season, he could have got a 3-year deal. But he took it. He had his 13 million and said, "I'm happy with it." Well, that's foolish of you, because now you're costing yourself millions of dollars on the back end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, because if he had a 2016 season again, I mean, he would have got 18 million plus. I mean,
but yeah,
you pull out 16 and a half sacks, yeah,
yeah,
the lineup.
He would have easily got 14, 15 million a season if he would have had a year like that again.
Yeah,
but he messed that up for himself. So.
Yep. Yeah, so it's not great, obviously, and like the Takk thing. It's like I think either way, no matter what happens with Takk, the Falcons are probably going to draft an edge rusher high next year. And like I know there was some Kojak in the chat, asked about the Falcons getting Yannick Ngakoue, and that's not going to happen because they cannot afford him. They cannot afford him in any universe. Like as cool as that would be, it's not.
They don't even have the capital to do that. They don't have the draft capital to do that.
No, they would trade away next year's picks. Yeah,
he's going to warrant at least a first round pick. If you go, I believe when the Niners traded for D Ford, who was tagged by the Chiefs, I think they gave the Chiefs like a first and a second, and then they gave him like a $14-15 million deal.
Yeah.
When Frank Clark got traded, same thing. It was 2 early round picks and then 15-16 million. Like they don't have the means to do that. Stop bringing his name up, dog. That makes no sense. I swear.
Yeah, financially they can't, and it's and also draft pick wise.
He wants elite money. Like he wants 18-19 million a year. They don't have that, dude.
Yeah, somebody will give it to him. Somebody will probably trade for him, but it's probably not going to be Atlanta for various reasons. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for pass rush help, it's probably going to be in June. Like June, I would say June, 2nd-ish is when they'll be going after. I think that they will go after a veteran edge. I think that's probably the reason they were okay passing on it in the draft. But like if Everson Griffin's still out there in June, I think they'll pursue him, not to give him big money, but a 1 year, $6 or $7 million deal, something like that. If he'll take it, I think they would be happy to do that. Like Michael Bennett, the Seattle Michael Bennett, not the one that's been hanging around our roster. Vinny Curry, I guess, is still out there. Somebody mentioned Marcus Golden, Cam Wake,
unretired or whatever.
Yeah, so there's options out there, but the Falcons can't really pursue any of those options until June. But if they're still out there, then yeah,
I would like to see Griffin.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love that.
I know Michael Bennett's name has been, but Michael Bennett's been tossing around the Falcons for like 3 years now, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm at a point right now where I'm like, okay, I kind of don't even want to see it now. If it was going to happen, I would have rather it happened 2017 when those rumors started before he went to Philly. I don't care about it now.
Well, yeah, it's like if it was going to happen, like it probably would have happened by now. Like you would think that it would have happened because last year he signed for like basically nothing. So yeah, I mean, I think if the Falcons wanted him, they would have signed him.
And he got older, of course. So now I don't look at him now like I did 3 years ago.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I want to see Griffin. Griffin is interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Griffin, I mean, they could pull off a deal with him. It's probably going to be a 1 to 2 year thing, not major money. Because if he's still in the market in June, obviously the market that he wanted is not materialized. He's an older player. But, yeah, I mean, he would be perfect for a short-term guy to help the Falcons over the next couple of years.
They need to, guys. I don't know how you guys feel about the edge situation right now, but I cannot go into week 1 of the 2020 season and they don't make another addition at edge. I would not feel comfortable at all. I mean, I know getting Fowler is good and, bringing on a guy like Marlin Davidson, but I really don't feel comfortable right now at edge if they had to play.
You're not Steven Means Hive?
No, man. I know Quinn is high on him, but what have we seen from him to say, all right, he can be a major contributor this year? I mean, I know he's talking them up, but until we see something, I don't know what to expect from him.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We're one Takk injury away from literally just depending on Dante Fowler. Like
and Alan Bailey, baby.
Exactly.
Yep.
They need to do something.
No, I think they will. I honestly do think that that's going to be their big free agent signing because they're getting $10 million from that Trufant contract. You have to think they made him a post-June first cut for a reason. They're expecting that money. They're probably going to make a move of some kind. It all depends on what these guys want. But I think one of those free agent edge rushers is going to be in Atlanta by the time we would get to when training camp would normally be starting. That's my guess. I think that based on they didn't really bring in a lot of guys in undrafted free agency either. I mean, there was a couple interesting names in there, but they kind of left the position alone for the most part. So that also leads me to believe that there's going to be another free agent addition.
It also explains a bit why they didn't trade up in the draft as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Another good point.
They just kept their pick.
Yep. So speaking of the draft, we should talk about that because it's the title of the show. So the Falcons did, like you said, they did not trade up. I think it was the first time for Dimitroff that he didn't make a trade in a long time, at least since Quinn's been here. And they kept all 6 picks. They made all 6 picks. We obviously, if you guys were here for day 1 and day 2, we talked about those picks. We weren't here for day 3, so we'll definitely cover those in a little more detail. But just quick, recap of the first round pick was cornerback AJ Terrell from Clemson. So if you guys wanted to, it's been a couple days. It's been it's been a little bit since we made the pick. I'll go to you first on this one, Eric. Like, how are you feeling now? What are your thoughts on Terrell and what he's going to do in year 1 for the Falcons?
I think AJ Terrell is going to be a pretty good ball player, man. I still feel that there were better options on the table at corner, but I'm not looking at the pick now like most people were, and I'm not looking at the pick now like I did when it was first made. When it was first made, I was a little taken back, but after watching the film again, going over my notes of him again, I realized, like, hey, this guy, he fits what they look for, and he's going to be fine. He just needs, he's going to need a little time to get his play strength up, but there's things that he can do that you don't normally expect from a big corner. Change of direction is one of them. He has really good change of direction skills for a guy that's 200 pounds. So I think you're going to see a guy that's probably, he's not going to be an elite corner like an Okuda, but I think he's going to be fairly solid. And we tossed it out during the draft show, but I think Darius Slay is probably like his ceiling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's his cap. That's what he has the potential to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good player in Darius Slay. That would be, for pick 16, that's fair, definitely a fair value there. And like you said, he does have really good change of direction for someone that size. He's fast. He ran almost a 4.39. I think it was like a 4.41 or something like that. So he's got plenty of speed. So yeah, I like him a lot. He's going to start. He's going to be one of the outside corners in week 1. So that's a little bit scary, throwing any rookie right into a role like that. But I don't think I would be shocked if he was the cornerback 1 by the end of the season and Oliver was cornerback 2. Right. And I like Oliver, but Oliver's been disappointing so far. Maybe he can get it together this year, but Terrell, at this point, probably at least athletically, Terrell's definitely the more talented of the two. But Oliver does have that ridiculous length to his advantage. But Evan, you got any thoughts on the Terrell pick?
No, I remember watching it and hoping it was going to be Chase on, but we've kind of been used to how the team is in the draft, to where you pretty much, if you see who you want, like, you're not going to get them, just because that's just how it's been. Like, I remember, like, yesterday it was the Keanu Neal draft, where, like, I didn't know much about Keanu Neal. I knew who he was, but not enough to be, like, excited, because I believe it was Miles Jack who I was hoping they would take, who ended up going to the Jaguars. But it felt like the same sort of situation. That's why I didn't really put much stock into getting upset over it, because it's like, you kind of come to expect it at this point. Even the Calvin Ridley pick felt like it was completely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I've been, happy with that. So, I think the other thing important to mention, if you've been watching any of our podcasts, Eric summed it up best. The people who were making the one game against LSU as, like, his only game in his career, you have to look at the other stuff. And I think it's a fair point that LSU pretty much did that against every corner they played. So that's kind of irrelevant to bring up. It's just, it was the last game, so it's the freshest on people's minds. But, I'm intrigued by the pick. It was definitely a need once they let Trufant go. So
I rewatched that game. It was 2 plays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they were the most memorable ones.
But they were the most memorable ones because they were touchdowns. But it was 2 plays. Literally 2 plays. And he gets a guy that's been a starter for 2 seasons and has been playing considerable minutes on a national championship elite defense like Clemson for 3 years. That was the first bad game in his entire career.
Yeah, and honestly, his other snaps in that game were pretty good. Like he was sticky. Like he was on
the first quarter and a half. I don't think Chase even had a catch. Like he had 2 pass deflections. He was in Chase's hip pocket. It was 2 plays.
Yep. But that's the thing with every NFL player, right? It's like you could throw 5 touchdowns, but if you throw 3 interceptions, everyone remembers the 3 interceptions, not the touchdowns. So that's just how it is, and it's unfortunate, but luckily a lot of teams also watched more than the LSU game and found out that actually, in fact, he does have good tape. The LSU game was kind of an outlier, but I like the pick. I think it was a good, not great pick. Like Eric said, I think I had like a couple guys higher than him. Like I probably would have taken.
I would have taken Diggs.
Yeah, I know you like Diggs a lot. I guess I would have taken Christian Fulton and who was the other one? Jeff Gladney. I think I had Jeff Gladney the highest of the remaining guys. Then Christian Fulton.
Diggs got embarrassed against LSU. So.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Diggs got roasted. Yeah, that's not so surprising though, because Diggs is super raw. That was like his first year as a starter.
He had a terrible game against LSU.
Oh, yeah.
I remember he gave up a touchdown to Edwards-Helaire where he had to tackle at the goal line and he let him just drive him into the end zone. He had a horrible game. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing against Terrell, man. That guy's gonna be fine.
Yeah. So it's like the Falcons don't have the same board that we do, so I'm not going to hold them to the standard of like, oh, they were like slightly off on my board. That's not what I do. But it was fair value for the pick. I think it's a good pick. We'll see if it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and they're right. Maybe it turns into a great pick. That would be sweet. Like I would be totally happy to be wrong and him actually definitely be, one of the top corners in this draft class in a Pro Bowl or better. That's always awesome if that turns out to be the case. Moving on to day 2, I think this was the day that everyone loved. I didn't really see anyone anywhere that was upset with the picks on day 2. The first one being Marlin Davidson, which I think Eric and I talked, and it was kind of our favorite maybe of the whole class. But I'll give Evan a chance first to talk about the Marlin Davidson pick, because I don't think we've heard your take on that. But how did you feel about that selection?
I mean, it was one of those situations where I had no idea who they were going to pick. I knew we still needed defensive line help, so I was hoping it was, somewhere there. I believe it was Epinesa would fall to us, but I think he went to the Bills. And then, to be honest, I didn't know much about him. And then you start seeing all the, his statements roll in. I think there's been a couple, but my favorite was the one about him. I'm going to butcher it, but you can go find it. It's like something about the second he came out the womb, he was destined for greatness or something. And it's like even, obviously no football's been played. And if he's dominant on the field, that's definitely going to make it that much cooler. But you got to love confidence like that. And it's not obnoxious confidence. It's just, if he truly believes that, and to say stuff like that before you even play, I think he does. How can you not be excited about that? We need that sort of toughness. That's not, that's not asshole-ish. It's just confidence. Mm-hmm. We need that on our defense because, swagger, you don't want to be a soft defense. One of our writers, Adnan, said it on one of the other podcasts that, we want to be the bad guys for once, not bad as in like, New Orleans Saints taking,
Bounty Gate bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you want to be the bullies, on the field and have a defense that at least, like the Legion of Boom, where you're a little like aware of it. You're like, oh, we're playing the Seahawks. They got the Legion of Boom. Not saying one guy's going to do that, but it's definitely welcome to have some attitude. I think so.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I did really like the pick because I've been clamoring for them to add an impact defensive tackle, particularly pass rushing focused one, for like the past 3 drafts, and they've kind of blown it off every time. And then they did finally draft one in Deidrin Sanat, and he's just been riding the bench. So, I mean, I love the pick. I like the flexibility of it. I like his attitude. The measurables are awesome. He's got really excellent change of direction ability for someone who's 300 pounds. I mean, he moves really easily for someone that size. I mean, I wouldn't say he's like super bendy, going to turn the corner like a Chison and like, cut around an offensive tackle, but he can definitely, run around the edge. He can move. He can stand up and play. I mean, he could play on the edge if he had to. But at defensive tackle, he's got a little bit of growing he needs to do because he's used to standing up and rushing off the edge. So he's got to keep his pad level down, be a little bit more, a little smarter with his leverage on the inside and that sort of thing. But his hands are really good for someone who's coming out of college, and that's the most important thing in my mind to someone who's going to make an impact in year one, because you can get by with just being an athlete in college, but if you don't know how to use your hands, you're going to get stonewalled by these NFL offensive linemen because they're going to shoot their hands into you and they're going to make you earn every rep. And if you can use your hands, you can unlock your athleticism and get around guys and do a lot of good, important stuff. And that gives Marlin Davidson a big leg up early. So I'm super happy with the pick. That's a great pick in the second round. Eric, I know you're a big fan too. What are your thoughts on that Davidson addition?
Yeah, I like Davidson a lot. I will admit, though, I thought that there were better options still on the board at that pick. But it's, again, just like the Terrell pick, it's not a bad pick, and it fits in. Like Evan said, he brings a unique edge to the locker room. And I mentioned it on DW and Gina's show the other day, where in actuality, in the DQ era, this defense has been, it had a locker room full of choir boys. I mean, you didn't really have a bunch of guys that will, get in your face and say some outlandish stuff and make like, hey, you playing the Falcons today. Like, you just had a bunch of guys that were quiet and, to themselves. And Marlon Davidson is the complete opposite. He is a little arrogant, but I'm fine. I can put up with it. So. Yeah, and his comment he made at the combine was pretty. Again, I think that's what you need on the defensive line. You need somebody on the defensive line that's a little loose and a little nutty. Because you gotta chase the quarterback all day, man. Look, my dad was a huge Lawrence Taylor fan, and he also taught me a lot about Deacon Jones. So I always felt that, of course, Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive player of all time. And no one can sit here and tell you that Lawrence Taylor was sane. Like, he was that guy was crazy himself. And even Deacon Jones back in the 60s and early 70s, like, even Deacon Jones was, he was you knew he was on the field, and you knew that you were playing against him, and he was going to let you know. So that's what I kind of was, taught at an early age when I started learning football and stuff like that. So what Marlon Davidson brings, I appreciate.
Yeah, and like it's good to have a mix of guys in your locker room, because they were a little too heavy on the side of, like, high character guys, quiet leaders and that sort of thing. They have the reasoned, smart, guys like Grady Jarrett, who's going to be more of a quiet leader, but he's very stable. He's going to keep the unit together. They need more of that electric energy to kind of get everyone jazzed up, and that's what Marlon Davidson can bring. That's what someone like Keanu Neal brings, and just like once Keanu Neal went down, and if Deion Jones ever went down, they kind of lost that edge. You could feel it, because those were the two fiery leaders of the defense. Ricardo Allen is more of like, a Grady Jarrett type. He's definitely a leader, but not, a vocal guy, super high energy guy. So, like, they needed more of those guys, and they needed them on the defensive line. So adding someone like Davidson, it's not just the talent. It's also, like you said, the attitude and that energy that he brings. So I think that's a big part of that pick as well. All right, round 3. One of my favorite picks, just for the long-term upside of it, but center guard Matt Hennessy from Temple was the third round selection. This was the one that I was, really, really pumping up for a while, because it seemed like they really liked him. It felt an obvious need. So I was pretty happy with the pick. Long term, I think it's a good selection. I think he's going to be a good center, and he's going to get to learn behind Alex Mack for a year. How much will he help in 2020? I mean, that's totally up in the air. I think it really depends on, who wins left guard. Do I think it'll be Hennessy? Not necessarily. He's definitely a better center than he is a guard. Not that he can't play guard, and he'll probably be the backup guard on most game days, but I think he's going to be a center, and he's going to be a really good center, but I don't know that he's going to be a great guard. But that being said, I think it's really important to get him in here this year. A third-round pick is not a very high price for a future starting center. and he gets to learn behind Alex Mack, which is super important. So that checked all the boxes for me. Eric, you got any particular thoughts on that Hennessy selection?
Matt Hennessy is just, he's not a elite center, but he's pretty well rounded. He doesn't have a number of red flags. He's pretty solid all around. He's been a multi-year starter, and he's one of those guys that you're just gonna at the end of his career, you're gonna look at his career and say, man, he started for 12 years. He's just that guy. So I like that pick there as well. It's a future pick.
Yeah, future pick. You always got to have some future picks. I mean, it's always nice to get immediate starters, but people underrate because you're drafting for the rookie contract. You're not just drafting for the rookie season. So it's good to mix a guy like that in who can help you long term too. Evan, you have any particular thoughts about that Matt Hennessy selection?
No, I mean, like you guys said, it filled a need. I did have more of a outlook that's not specifically to Matt Hennessy. I like the flexibility of playing guard and center, and I think Dan Quinn mentioned left guard this year. I like that it kind of has more of a future outlook, which we haven't really seen much from either Dimitrov or Dan Quinn lately, just based on the fact that they kept Freeman and Trufant and Hooper along during last season instead of possibly trading them to pretty much save their jobs. With this kind of pick, it's looking years down the road, which you want from your general manager and head coach. So whether they're here or not, you want that kind of perspective, not let's go completely all in and sell everything just to win this year, because there will be more seasons after they're gone. So no, I like the pick.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And we'll see. They definitely value that versatility, and we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible for him to win the guard job, but I would be a little bit surprised because he hasn't played guard in a while, and his traits are definitely like set up to be a really great center, but at guard, his weaknesses are probably a little bit more pronounced. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's still like him being like an average guard might still be better than everybody else at that position, which is really sad. But
I thought I read that there was a one of the connections to it, and I could be totally wrong, but I thought I read it on Twitter somewhere that the head coach that used to be for Temple is now the Georgia Tech coach, and Dimitrov talked to him or something.
Jeff
Is that correct? So that helped. Point them in the Matt Hennessy direction or something like that. So.
Yeah, that's who he consulted. Jeff Collins recruited and coached him.
Right.
That was Georgia Tech.
Yep. So that could be part of it as well, certainly.
Because I remember, wasn't Cushenberry still on the board? I remember he was someone a lot of people were talking up. And
Cushenberry didn't go till 4.
Yeah, he lasted a lot longer than I thought he would.
Did he go to the Broncos or something?
Yeah, he did go to the Broncos.
Yeah, he went to Denver, so there were better options on the board in my opinion, but again, it's not. I mean, honestly, their entire draft was pretty much that way for me at least. There were literally better options at every position that they drafted, but it wasn't. They didn't make a bad pick. Even the punter, which I know we're going to get to at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I know someone specifically asked why did we think Hennessy was the choice over Cushenberry, and it had to be his athleticism. It's also possible
and his name. They both.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Hennessy is pretty hard to beat. I gotta get that jersey just because. But
I don't know though. Have you seen? I shared it on Twitter. The 6s look weird.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see.
They're bizarre.
Yeah, but.
I think it was more. It probably was more because Hennessy is an actual center, and Cushenberry is probably more better suited for guard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Hennessy, or I'd say Cushenberry definitely has more of a future at guard if he wants, but he's not as athletic. So I think they value the athleticism on the offensive line really highly still. So that's my guess as to why they went for Hennessy, is because he's a better athlete. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty close for me. I think I had Cushenberry as a late first, and then I had Hennessy as a second. So it's like kind of splitting hairs there. but both good prospects in my opinion. Charles Hartley says, Eric just drinking the whole milk jug. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I definitely appreciate
water.
That. That was water. Okay.
Water. Who drinks a gallon of milk like that?
Eric's like, he's packing on that protein, man. He's getting ready. He's about to go pump iron. So.
Who drinks a gallon of milk, man? It's water, dude.
That's hilarious.
Still drinks milk anyway?
Just straight milk out of the gallon.
Who does that?
Just ruin it for the whole house. Yeah. But moving on to day 3 here, 4th round selections. Falcons had 2 4th rounders and then not picked again until the 7th. So the first 4th rounder was a linebacker. It was somebody that I wasn't really familiar with, Michael Walker, Fresno State, I believe it was. Not a player I had actually scouted at all, so I spent some time this weekend getting a better look at him. But I'll give you guys a chance to kind of talk on his fit. Evan, I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Walker at all, but
I was going to say, I'm going to let y'all, I'm not going to waste any of y'all time. I had no idea who either one of him or Hawkins was. So
okay, gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you felt included. Okay, like
I'll listen.
Okay, yeah, Evan's gonna catch some knowledge tonight too. All right, Eric, I'll let you take the first crack at Michael Walker.
Walker was a guy that I definitely had my own for a while. As a matter of fact, I picked him in my final mock at that particular spot, 4th round, 119th overall. So I nailed that one. A little proud of that. But Walker is he's not spectacular in anything, to be honest with you. Like, he's not the most athletic. He's not the fastest. He doesn't have the greatest instincts. He doesn't have the greatest hands. He's just another solid, well-rounded prospect. He's a two-time first-team All-Mountain West. 2018, he made first team as a defensive end. 2019, he made first team as a linebacker. He's played all 3 linebacker spots as well as defensive end while at Fresno State. And I think the last 2 seasons he's led them in tackles. He's really not, if you throw on the tape, he's not going to be the guy that's just amazing from sideline to sideline. He's not going to be making spectacular plays, but one thing you will notice about him is that he's literally always around the football, whether it's making a tackle or maybe getting a pass deflection. He's always around the football. And when I say he's making a tackle, like, he's literally making the tackle. He's not one of those guys that get credit for a tackle because he's like laying next to the pile. No, he's actually making the tackle. That's just the type of guy he is. And I think he is going to be your replacement for Devondre Campbell later on down the line. I know the team came out. I know Quinn came out and said that they're going to give him a shot at weak side, but I don't think that's where he's going to stay. I think strong side linebacker or Sam linebacker is his future. And again, he's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's versatile, like you said. I mean, he's played edge rusher, he's played linebacker, he's played multiple linebacker spots. He can drop in coverage a little bit into some short zones and stuff like that. He's got pretty good athleticism. I mean, I'd say he's like an above average athlete. I mean, he's not a special athlete, but he's solid. Right. He's a physical hitter, and he's got good size too. He's got some height and weight to him. So like Eric said, I mean, he's someone who's versatile and can line up at all 3 linebacker spots. He can even play a little edge in a pinch. Not that I would do that in the NFL, but he's definitely someone who can get production as a blitzer. He was a productive sacker in college. He's someone that brings a lot to the table, but is he overly special in any one area? No, not necessarily. But can that be a starter on your defense? Yeah. I mean, I think he can get there. I think if he gets more comfortable in coverage, he's someone who could potentially match up against tight ends because of his size. If he gets a little more comfortable in that area. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll have a role. I think we'll see him take snaps. But we'll just have to see how quickly he adjusts to the NFL game, and what role he ends up winning, because his quickest path to a starting job is definitely Sam in the base package. But he could definitely get some snaps at other linebacker spots too, depending on, rotational stuff and certain packages. So that'll be interesting to see how he comes along in his first season. Then we'll get to my favorite day 3 pick, which was Jalen Hawkins from California.
Really?
Yeah, I actually liked him a lot. Yeah. when I actually got a chance to watch him. He to me is like Kamal Ishmael, but he can play coverage and he's actually athletic. And I love Kamal Ishmael, fellow UCF alum, go Knights. But Kamal Ishmael could not cover to save his life, and he was not very athletic. But he did know how to hit people, and that gave him a pretty long NFL career for a 7th round pick. So big ups to Kamal Ishmael. But Jalen Hawkins, I would say, is not as, technically sound as a tackler, not quite going to lay the wood as much as Kamal Ishmael. But Jalen Hawkins is athletic. Jalen Hawkins can play all 3 safety spots. He can play deep. I would not say that he should play deep necessarily, but he can. He's a box safety, and ideally. And you put him in the box, he's got good instincts for zone coverage. He can jump routes. He didn't have like astounding ball production, but he definitely has some skills there. He's just very comfortable in the box, playing in short zones and doing that sort of stuff. And to me, I think he has potential as like a solid starter, which is a lot more than what we could say for Keanu Neal's usual backups. I think Eric and I both appreciate Sherrod Neesman, but Quinn clearly does not. So if Quinn's not going to play Sherrod Neesman, we need to have someone else in here that's not going to stink up the joint if Keanu Neal misses any time. So I definitely think that Jalen Hawkins is a much better backup at strong safety than they've had in recent years. And his versatility, he's got the potential to play, big nickel sets and that sort of thing too because of his versatility. So I like the pick a lot. I think it's I don't think he's not a starter that you necessarily like want to be an every week starter. We'll see how he develops, but in terms of depth, I think he's a pretty good strong safety backup for Keanu Neal.
Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm a little iffy on him. I'm not gonna say it's a bad pick, but I'm not gonna honestly say that it's another situation where there were better safety prospects on the board that I felt like they could have taken, and they didn't. One guy that comes to mind, Antoine Brooks out of Maryland, was one guy that was still on the board and was taken by Pittsburgh in round 5. And I think Antoine Brooks would have been a dynamic backup for Keanu Neal. Hawkins he's athletic. I give you that. He's definitely athletic. I think he does have decent ball skills, at least because he was recruited to Cal as a receiver / athlete, and he came into the program as a receiver. So yeah, so he has ball skills at least. I just watching a couple games, I'm wondering like, okay, where is he? Like where is he? Where is he? Like I kept asking like, where is he? What is he doing? Why? What difference is he making? What impact is he making? Where is he? For a guy that supposedly has that versatility, I really shouldn't be asking why haven't I heard his name being called in several drives or a few quarters or whatever. But he does have the versatility to play both safety spots. I'd rather him play strong. I definitely don't want him playing deep free center field, or even split safety as well. I don't even know if I really want him doing that as well. Mm-hmm. I think he's better towards the line of scrimmage because of his tackling ability. He does like to hit, and in many cases that hitting leads to unnecessary roughness calls.
Yeah, he does tend to go a little high, which is that's something.
Yeah. That's something he's definitely going to have to clean up. I can appreciate the physicality, but there's a time and place for that physicality, and he's going to have to learn that at the NFL level, or he's going to be paying a lot of money in fines. So, yeah, again, they could have made a better pick, but it wasn't necessarily a bad pick. But we'll see how he what he does. They're definitely going to need him for special team purposes in year one.
Yeah, certainly they will. Yeah, Antoine Brooks was definitely a guy I liked. I assume that his kind of lackluster combine maybe was why the Falcons weren't as interested. I think he ran like a 4.64 or something, which isn't like awful, but it's fairly slow for a safety. I believe Jalen Hawkins at his pro day ran a 4.5, and Brooks is a lot heavier too, though. Brooks is like 220, so that's probably part of it.
I don't know if I even see that long speed from him.
I don't think he's like super fast, but I think he's fast. I think he's more athletic than Brooks. But Brooks, I would say, is definitely more physical and has better instincts as a player. But yeah, I guess. But they value athleticism so much, especially for their late round picks.
Athleticism and versatility. That's the key.
So
that's the key.
If we take that into account, it actually makes sense. Evan, did you have any thoughts on Hawkins, or did you he was another guy that you hadn't really watched?
The only thing I really did was afterwards, naturally, I wanted to look up and see, who these guys were. And a lot of the people I trust on, who like Eric and you and Adnan and Everett and etc. Apparently he targets a lot, which, that's whatever. I know some of them are questionable, but in the NFL, that's definitely not. You don't want those kind of penalties against you. Yeah. But I do like when people hit hard. So at the same time, I don't know if he's a hard hitter or just, opportunist on shots. So
he brings it. That's
like a Keon O'Neal type or Willie Moe type.
Yeah.
Okay.
His thing is, like I said, you would probably never have to question his physicality. But
well, that's a Dan Quinn guy.
Yeah, yeah. But Kevin and I pointed out, it's just he's really gonna have to clean that up at the next level, because that's an easy penalty, and for a guy that's in the fourth round that's going to be making not a ton of money, you're going to be costing yourself. I mean, that's a lot of fine. Those fines add up when you're a fourth rounder,
right? Yeah,
those fines add up a lot. So yeah, he's definitely going to have to clean that up. One thing I didn't see a lot from him on tape, but I'm pretty sure he can do it. I don't see a ton of wrapping up from him. Like he throws his shoulder, he throws his arms, but I just really don't see the sure tackling. And I'm pretty sure he can do it.
Yeah,
he has to do it.
Yeah,
but yeah.
No, you're right. Like he hits hard, but he does have to clean up. He has to go lower. He's got to wrap up a little bit better. But a lot of these guys coming out of college, they just go for the big hits. I mean, they're trying to get on highlight reels. They're trying to get on SportsCenter or whatever.
He does have a couple plays where he's breaking up like a screen or an end around, and it's beautiful. And he times it perfectly. But there are a couple plays where he throws that elbow to the neck of a ball carrier, and you're like, oh, come on, dude, like clean that up.
Yeah. So that's something they're going to work with them on. The Falcons haven't been great at teaching people that can't tackle how to tackle, but I think they've been fairly good at teaching people to not get penalties when they tackle. I think for the most part, they haven't been a team that's been overly penalized for that. There's been a couple of times where it's been kind of questionable, but I think for the most part, they're decent at that. So we'll see how that goes. And now we'll move on to probably the weirdest pick of the draft, which was the 7th rounder. My Syracuse friend here, I actually don't. This was like one of the Syracuse players that I really didn't scout at all. I just kind of like watched him, for fun.
You were set to go to the pro day.
I was, and that's funny.
Corona, so.
I probably would have seen the Falcons talking to him, and then like it would have been like, oh, who are they talking to? I don't know who that is. I assume they would have been.
If Kevin would have came out with a scouting report on a punter, I definitely would have questioned a few things.
Yeah. It's like, all right, guys, I've been grinding the tape so hard, I'm out of everything else. It's time for punter talk. But yeah, no, it's he's a good punter. I mean, I've seen him kick at Syracuse for a while. Never really like paid attention super closely, but he's a good punter. His big thing is hang time. He's got some real boomers that he can just keep it up there. He can keep it up in the air for a long time. He's good at directional kicks. He's a good punter. I'm not going to lie. He actually kicked a bunch of long field goals for Syracuse. I think he's 3 or 4 and with a 52-yarder. So he can kick in a pinch. So if, Young Wei Koo was to get hurt or something like that in a game, Hofrichter can kick field goals. So that's always nice to have from your punter.
Versatility.
There you go. And he's 23. He's a young guy. So the Falcons might just say, hey, we'd like to get our next punter in here long term, because for whatever reason, it seems like they don't really like Ryan Allen. Like they've constantly brought in people to compete with him. They had Sam Irwin-Hill here, but he had visa issues, so they had to let him go. So then now they brought in Hofrichter. Ryan Allen, I think, was solid last year. I mean, he wasn't anything overly special, but he was fine. But he is 30 and he's a little bit more expensive, so It could just be that they want to go young at the position, get another long-term guy the new Matt Bosher, essentially. And Hofrichter can tackle on special teams too. I think the coaches actually got onto him about it because he would go for too many tackles. But he's a good player. And the cool thing is that his hand does the Vulcan salute when he punts. I don't know if you guys saw that special fact about him, but apparently it's totally involuntary. So whenever he punts, he just throws the Vulcan salute up. So yeah, to me that means he's a Hall of Famer for sure. So
yeah, that's definitely what we need on this team.
We need the Vulcan salute. Okay, live long and prosper. That's what this team needs. Yeah, do you got any punter takes on that one, Eric? No punter takes.
There were like three decent edge rushers still on the board that I would have taken a shot at. They didn't even go after edge rusher at all in the draft, man. And they went after a punter. I get it. They like him, whatever. He still would have been there after the draft.
It's the seventh round, though. Does it really matter? With a punter in the 7th round, there's actually a chance this guy makes your roster and actually starts. So how many other positions could you really say that for a 7th round pick? So if you're gonna draft a specialist, it should be the 7th round, right? That's where you can draft a specialist, and it's good value.
I guess.
I'm talking to you, Tampa Bay. Yeah.
I guess. We'll go with that. Yeah, we'll go with that. They went for value in round 7.
#value. There you go. Yeah, you made up all that. I mean, if he turns into the next Matt Bosher, that's a great 7th round pick. So, but yeah, I mean, I think he's good. I think he'll probably win the job just because. But
honestly, a punter would have to literally be Ray Guy in order for me to sit here and say what a great draft pick.
It's a 7th rounder though. It's it's like a priority free agent. It's worth 1 on the pick point scale. Pick 228.
Well, why not use that 1 pick to get an edge rusher who can make more of an impact? I'm just being picky.
Yeah, I guess I would say that I did like some of the guys available, but I also don't think that would any of those 7th round guys beat out Austin Larkin or Steven Means to make the
Jonathan
roster.
Garvin might.
I thought he got drafted before the Falcons picked him.
Oh, he was still on the board.
Oh, okay. He got drafted though, right?
He went several picks later to Green Bay.
Okay, well, my guess is that he didn't pass the comrade filter.
And Hofrichter did?
Well, what's wrong with... Wait, no, I meant a character filter.
The name, first of all, and I've said this before, the name sounds like a fake ID name.
Sterling.
You can't pronounce, so you just say, all right, yeah, it looks legit. You can get the beer. That's just, that's what I get from him. Sterling
Hofrichter.
All right, whatever, kid. Yeah,
it reminds me of Sterling Archer, but yeah.
You can get the Heineken, sure. Yeah, it's fine.
I don't even want to try to pronounce that yet.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's a good punter, I guess, but this is just my selfishness taking over. Kind of wish they would have went after an edge rusher instead, but
yeah. I do wonder, and Kenny G in the chat brought it up. If Kenny Willekes was there, he went 3 picks before the Falcons selected. I wonder if they really would have taken Willekes there with that pick.
At this point, I don't think they would have, honestly, because
maybe not. I mean, it seems like they, yeah.
They were high on him. They were high on Curtis Weaver, and they let all these guys pass.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me that also lines up with what we were talking about earlier, that they're probably planning on adding an edge rusher in free agency. And if that's the case, they're probably they're just probably not going to make the roster anyway, so who cares?
I know that punter market was thin. In
that punter market, there was slim pickings, man. They lost Sam Irwin-Hill, and they panicked.
Gotta get a guy now.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. You got thoughts on the punter there, Evan? I know you probably haven't been grinding that punter film either, but...
Oh, you know me. I'm special teams.
Yeah. I know you are.
Yeah. Not fully joking. The need was there just because I think it's important to bring in talent based on how that Matt Bryant situation went down. Although I wish it would have been, and they still haven't addressed it, but they need to bring in competition for, Young Wei Koo still. But that's here nor there. I thought Ryan Allen was doing a phenomenal job last year. Him and Bosher actually finished with the same exact yards per punt, although Allen had, I think, 19 more punts or something. so that's kind of impressive. But I guess they saw something in the punting game that made them want to bring him in. And if he's solid, I mean, that's fine, I guess. I'm with Eric. There was more, I thought, value there, or throw a dart at the dartboard type players with, a 7th-round pick, which is practically meaningless. But maybe they know something we don't. I don't know. But
Pro Bowl or bust.
Pro Bowl or bust.
I mean, the highlights were nice, but I mean, is anybody actually going to watch the bad highlights anywhere? That's the big question.
What was interesting, and we don't really know what was on the board for these teams, but I think after he was selected, I think there was maybe one more specialist that was taken after him, and it was an actual place kicker. So
the Patriots one.
No.
Or did somebody else draft one?
The Rams took one. They took a place kicker. So it wasn't like teams were like fumbling over each other to get place kickers and punters in the final round. Some team, they were still going at the offensive tackles and tight ends and edge rushers. Again, it is a 7th round. Kevin does have a point. It doesn't really mean a ton, but at the same time, like Evan just pointed out, just what will it hurt to throw at an edge rusher and he gives you 5 sacks this year as a 7th round?
Or anyone, really. There was one guy who I remember because he was at Washington with McGarry, that Trey Adams guy. Mm-hmm. And is he broken, or did he kill someone? Because he went undrafted, and I remember when McGarry got picked, they were talking about him being a high pick next year, which obviously would have been this year, but he wasn't.
Injuries.
Yeah, I think it was.
He should have came.
Like, it must be pretty damn bad for him to drop.
He should have came out a year ago.
Yeah.
He probably would have been a first rounder a year ago if he came out. Yeah. But he decided to go, and it hurt him.
Yep. The Biadasz thing too. Biadasz should have come out last year as well. Would have been a first round pick. So that's what these players like. Look, college players, like, nobody cares about, you need to stay with your team. You don't love the game. Like, don't pay attention to that nonsense, okay? Go get your money, because I guarantee you the NCAA don't give two F's about you. So
if you watch the Michael Jordan documentary that's pretty popular right now, I think Dean Smith did it the best, where he pretty much told Michael Jordan to go pro.
Yeah.
That's what you want in a coach.
Yes, that's what the coaches should say. But it's like, you got coaches like, we use Clemson as an example because the Falcons just took someone from Clemson. Like, Dabo Swinney's like, we can't pay him, and they shouldn't want to get paid and all this. And it's like, shut up, man. Like, you make millions of dollars a year. You can do whatever you want. And you're telling these kids, like, what they should and shouldn't do. Like, come on. Like, no. Like, if you're an NFL prospect and you're out there and you have the chance to go pro and you think you can get drafted on, like, if you think you can get drafted day one, if there's even a chance, you go pro. You just do it, because there's no guarantee that you're going to have a good season the next year.
I know it's a different sport, but Coach K does the same thing. Mm-hmm. He tells his guys, like, hey, if you're a 1-year wonder, go. Yeah. If you're ready to go. Mm-hmm. He would tell them. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't hesitate with that either. I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day.
It is.
The NCAA doesn't care about these kids, man.
No.
And I'm kind of happy that these kids are saying, you know what, I'm gonna go overseas and play ball.
Yeah, go play in the G League or whatever. I know that there's a guy who do that.
They're gonna force the NCAA's hand before it's all said and done, and you're starting to see a little bit of it now. You thought the NCAA was a bully, but in actuality, these kids, these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids are coming out and saying, I'm going to the G League, I'm going to play overseas ball and make $100 or hundreds of thousands of dollars before I go into the draft. They're going to force the NCAA to do something that they don't want to do. Yeah. Trust me. Give it time. You're starting to see it now anyway.
Yeah.
Before it's all said and done, the NCAA is going to say, you know what? Let's start paying them, because we can't keep losing 5 stars every year.
No. Yeah, exactly. That's 100% correct. Yep. All right. Well, we do. I did promise we'd talk about some UDFAs. We're already over an hour, so we'll keep it a little bit quick. But Eric, I'll give you the first crack if you have a UDFA player that you really like that you wanted to kind of give a shout out to, and we'll obviously circle back around and we'll do some more talk in the coming weeks. But yeah, if you had somebody that you really liked.
Oh man, one that I like.
Yeah, you know.
Wolf.
One that you find interesting in any way, shape, or form.
I'll tell you what, I'm not as high on this UDFA class as I was last year or 2 years ago. Oh man. The kid, what was the kid out of the 5'8" receiver that they just signed?
Chris Rowland.
Mm-hmm.
Rowland,
Tennessee State, I think.
Yeah. I watched some of his tape. He's not the biggest receiver in the world, but he's quicker than I wouldn't even say he's fast.
He's just like explosive. Yeah.
Just so quick.
Yeah.
In short spaces, and it's like you're trying to tackle someone that's smaller than him. It kind of reminds you a little bit of Sproles.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to tackle someone with a small, compact frame like that, and his quickness is just gonna be overbearing. So I think he has a chance to definitely make the roster, and I'm sure the team felt that way with the amount of money that they gave him a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Very good returner. Yeah, good returner too. So he could be the returner.
Right. I think he's probably the one that pops off to me. Jared Pinkney, the tight end out of Vanderbilt, also is one to keep an eye on. Although I didn't love his testing, it was terrible. He ran like a 4.9 as a tight end.
He's not a burner under any circumstances. Yeah, but yeah.
He reminds me of Algie Crumpler. Does he not look like Algie?
A little bit. He actually, actually, I couldn't remember who he reminded me of, but that's probably who it is. That's how he kind of looks.
I kept getting Algie Crumpler vibes. Like he's not fast, but he runs decent routes. He's just so big to tackle that you kind of approach him like, how do I tackle him?
Right.
Guys bounce off of him on film.
Yeah. And Chris Rowland, let me see, is pulling up because he wasn't at the combine, but he did run a 4.44.
Pull up his numbers.
Yeah,
his numbers were really good.
Yeah, I think he ran a 4.44, which is pretty fast. Like you said, it's not like elite speed, but he's
for a 5'8" guy. That's fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. He was really productive too. I remember that. But yeah, I was definitely gonna shout out Jared Pinkney because, like Eric said, he's not like a super athletic tight end, but he is a very good blocker. I mean, he might already be the best blocker that they have because Hayden Hurst is like fine, Jaden Graham's like fine, but Pinkney is, I think, a plus blocker. And that was kind of his calling card this year when Vanderbilt, went away from being a good football team and just asked him to block all the time instead of going and catching passes. So he was a very good blocker, and I think he's honestly a shoo-in for the roster because they don't really have any other tight ends. Like they have Kari Lee from the XFL, who I think is probably going to be in contention as well, and then some other UDFA guys like Carson Meyer and Rep.
There is another one that pops off that I have intrigue in.
Yeah.
Dalen McCleskey, wide receiver out of Tulane, who started off at Oklahoma State. I like him a lot because of what he did at Oklahoma State in that offense. He doesn't have great size. He's only 5'11", under 170 pounds. But at Oklahoma State, he was very productive. He had his sophomore year, he had 73 catches and 7 touchdowns, and then he came back his junior year and he had 50 catches that year. And only 5 touchdowns. But again, in that particular offense where there's so many playmakers, so many guys getting the balls in their hands, he was able to stand out and he was able to make a name for himself. So Jalen McCleskey, keep an eye on someone like him. I think he possibly could be your Christian Blake this year. Like he can beat him out.
Yeah. And the other guy they brought in too, what was his name? Juwan Green, from Albany. He was super productive in the FCS. He had 83 catches for 1,386 yards and led the FCS in touchdown catches with 17 this year. So that's, amazing production for. It's FCS, but that's great production. He's 6'1", 187. So he's very productive. It really depends on how quickly he can adjust to the competition jump. But they brought in only a few undrafted receivers, but I think between Rowland and Green and McCleskey, like you said, they do have some intriguing guys there. They always seem to hit on these undrafted free agents. Like they always seem to bring in,
and receiver,
they always seem to bring in good ones. Let's see, and we talked about Pinkney. I think
Bryson Young.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Bryson Young. He's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. He fits what they look for at linebacker. He's athletic. Again, you look at him on tape, he doesn't make a ton of plays, but at the same time, he played on the Oregon defense where he was really surrounded by playmakers. So, him not standing out is not a huge deal for me. But just, that athletic mold to the point where I feel he possibly could beat out a guy like Leroy Reynolds for a last roster spot and make a name for himself on special teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. He's another versatile guy that played some edge, some linebacker, did some of that. Yep. So yeah, he's someone to keep an eye on certainly. Let's see if there's anyone else. If you guys like massive nose tackles, they added like a 334 pound nose tackle, Silosi Latu. So I don't think he had anything special in terms of production, but he is huge, and he's Samoan, I believe. So, channeling his.
I just want to shamelessly plug one of the guys. I got to talk to Mikey Daniel. He's a fullback. He played running back at South Dakota State, but he's transitioning to fullback in the NFL. Because that's just what the Falcons are looking more for. But so I have an article coming out on Friday, I think. I think it's this Friday, about him and stuff like that. And, what Dan Quinn, basically, the staff wants him to be more of a hybrid type, which you're seeing more in the NFL these days, where he can play running back, fullback, and he's a big special teams player. So that's the one I want to highlight.
Yeah. They do have some intriguing names. They get them every year. We'll definitely do like a deeper dive on these names in the coming weeks because Lord knows we need the content. So I'll spend some time looking at the rest of the names, and I'm sure Eric will as well. And we'll get you some more intel on these undrafted guys over the next few weeks. But for now, we're gonna call it a day on those because we got to save some of this sweet content for later in the offseason because it is long and dark and full of terrors, as they say in Game of Thrones. So, before we get out of here, I do want to thank you guys for coming and joining us this evening. We appreciate all of you. If you don't mind throwing a like to this particular episode, that helps other people find it on the YouTubes. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we appreciate that. And that helps you guys keep up to date with everything that's going on here at the Falcoholic Live. Before we get out of here, I want to thank my co-host first, Evan Birchfield, at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. As he said, he's working on an interview with fullback Mikey Daniel, so you can check that out. Evan, anything else you want to plug?
No, not specifically. SB Nation's doing like a jersey week. So Gina Thomas, she's pretty much running with the whole thing. But if you're into uniforms and jerseys, and I think right now Dave or Gina, one of them, or maybe both of them, did a article on basically a quick history of the Falcons uniforms and stuff like that. So if that's your kind of thing, your jersey nut, go check that out. And then there's going to be more of it all week. So
yeah, definitely check that out, guys. That should be fun stuff. Everybody loves jersey talk, so that'll be if you're really into jerseys, definitely check that out as well. Also with us tonight, Eric Robinson at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, anything that you're working on you want to let the people know about?
Yeah, I got a scouting report on Marlin Davidson that is up on the Falcoholic. Give that a look as well. And you can also check out my scouting report from earlier this month on AJ Terrell, which I put together as well.
Yes, definitely check that out. Good stuff there from Eric. Picking up the slack when I was lazy and not getting a lot of scouting reports done this year. So good on Eric and Everett for
killing the position breakdowns. Kevin was doing his own thing. Don't let Kevin think. Don't let Kevin lead you to believe he wasn't doing anything. He was killing it his own self.
Yes, well, together we formed like the Draft of Ultron, so that was very, very good for the whole site. But yeah, speaking of me, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter. My roster projection: 53 players plus 12 practice squad players. Lord, it was hard to predict a practice squad with absolutely no idea what these players are going to do, but I tried. So that's coming out tomorrow, Thursday. So it's out there. It's going to be out there tomorrow at noon. So check that out. I'm sure it'll be very inaccurate, but hey, you know what? It's not about that. It's about the fun. So check that out tomorrow. And yeah, guys, we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about anything else that happens between now and then. We'll talk more roster-related stuff, more undrafted free agents, all that jazz. But until then, have a good night. Stay safe out there, and we will talk to you soon. See you guys. Have a good one.